Ishmael from Moby Dick is one of my favorite characters in all of literature. He's such like a grounded, kind spirit. He just seems so likable, and also he's like profoundly wise. In the beginning of Moby Dick, Ishmael forms a deep, loving friendship with this character, Queequeg. Queequeg is a cannibal from the South Pacific island of Rokovoko, and we're told that Rokovoko isn't found on any map because, quote, no true places are. And at one point early in the book, Ishmael finds himself locked out of the room in the inn where Queequeg and him are staying. We're told that this is the day of Queequeg's Ramadan, which means he's engaged in fasting and performing all sorts of rituals that are unique to his religion. And so Ishmael's now coming back to the inn and expecting to meet with Queequeg. So, quote, towards evening, when I felt assured that all his performances and rituals must be over, I went up to his room and knocked at the door, but no answer. I tried to open it, but it was fastened inside. Queequeg, said I softly through the keyhole. All silent. I say, Queequeg, why don't you speak? It is I, Ishmael. But all remained still as before. I began to grow alarmed. I had allowed him such abundant time. I thought he might have had an apoplectic fit. I looked through the keyhole, but the door opening into an odd corner of the room, the keyhole prospect was but a crooked and sinister one. I could only see part of a footboard, of a bed, and a line of the wall, but nothing more. I was surprised to behold resting against the wall the wooden shaft of Queequeg's harpoon, which the landlady the evening previous had taken from him before our mounting to the chamber. That's strange, thought I, but at any rate, since the harpoon stands yonder, and he seldom or never goes abroad without it, therefore he must be inside here, and no possible mistake. Queequeg, Queequeg, all still. Something must have happened. Apoplexy. I tried to burst open the door, but it stubbornly resisted. Running downstairs, I quickly stated my suspicions to the first person I met. In The Twilight of the Idols, Nietzsche tells us about a popular book from the 16th century by a man named Luigi Cornaro. The book is titled The Art of Living Long, and it's a diet book. And the book recommends eating very small amounts of food as a way of maintaining health and vitality into old age. So, about this book, Nietzsche writes, quote, everybody knows the book of the famous Cornaro, in which he recommends his slender diet as the recipe for a long, happy, and also virtuous life. Few books have been so widely read, and to this day many thousand copies of it are still printed annually in England. Nietzsche continues, I do not doubt that there is scarcely a single book that has worked more mischief, shortened more lives than this well-meant curiosity. The reason of this is the confusion of effect and cause. This worthy Italian saw the cause of his long life in his diet, whereas the prerequisites of long life, which are exceptional slowness of molecular change and a low rate of expenditure and energy, were the cause of his meager diet. He was not at liberty to eat a small or a great amount. His frugality was not the result of free choice. He would have been ill had he eaten more. End quote. So Nietzsche is interested in this case of Cornaro because he sees this as an example, an illustration of this inversion of cause and effect. And for Nietzsche, it is this inversion of cause and effect that lies at the heart of all religion and all religious thinking. And he uses this as part of his blistering attack on Christianity and organized religion. So continuing now with Nietzsche's attack, quote, the whole domain of morality and religion may be classified under the rubric of imaginary causes, the explanation of general unpleasant sensations. These sensations are dependent upon certain creatures who are hostile to us, right? So Nietzsche is saying that all of religion is our misinterpretation of certain sensations. So we have sensations, and we say the reason we have these sensations is because certain creatures, like devils or whatever, gods, are hostile to us. He continues, these sensations are dependent upon actions which are reprehensible. The feeling of sin, sinfulness, right? So he's saying we feel certain things and we come up with stories about them. We say the reason we feel these things is because of sin. He continues, these sensations depend upon punishment, upon compensation for something which we ought not to have done, which we ought not to have been. These sensations are the outcome of ill-considered actions, having evil consequences. The explanation of pleasant sensations, these sensations are dependent upon a trust in God. They may depend upon our consciousness of having done one or two good actions, a so-called good conscience in a physiological condition, which may be the outcome of good digestion. Right? And we're going to come back to that, the outcome of good digestion. So Nietzsche here is just, again, reiterating all the different ways in which we misinterpret sensations in the body. We feel a certain way, and we come up with a story to explain why we feel that way. Nietzsche continues, as a matter of fact, all these pretended explanations are but the result of certain states, and as it were, translations of feelings of pleasure and pain into a false dialect. Morality and religion are completely and utterly parts of the psychology of error. In every particular case, cause and effect are confounded. End quote. So after this whole incident of Ishmael and Queequeg in the inn, they break down the door, and Ishmael finds Queequeg sitting in deep meditation. So he's been in the state of fasting and meditation for a long time now, and that was ultimately the reason why Queequeg didn't answer the door and didn't respond to any of the yelling and shouting and commotion outside his door. He was just in deep meditation. And so after seeing this, Ishmael is greatly relieved. His dear, dear, dear friend Queequeg is okay, he's not dead, and he tells everyone they can go home, they can go back, whatever, everything's fine. And then, of course, Ishmael waits patiently for the end of Queequeg's Ramadan when he can finally get up and now can talk. And at this point, Ishmael describes how he responds to this incident and how he confronts Queequeg about it. So Ishmael now continues, quote, now, as I hinted before, I have no objection to any person's religion, be it what it may, so long as that person does not kill or insult any other person, because that other person don't believe it also. But when a man's religion becomes really frantic, when it is a positive torment to him, and in fine makes this earth of ours an uncomfortable inn to lodge in, then I think it high time to take that individual aside and argue the point with him. And just so I now did with Queequeg. Queequeg, said I, get into bed now, and lie and listen to me. I then went on, beginning with the rise and progress of primitive religions and coming down to the various religions of the present time, during which time I labored to show Queequeg that all these Lents, Ramadans, and prolonged ham-squattings in cold, cheerless rooms were stark nonsense, bad for the health, useless for the soul, opposed, in short, to the obvious laws of hygiene and common sense. I told him, too, that he being, in other things, such an extremely sensible and sagacious savage, it pained me, very badly pained me, to see him so deplorably foolish about this ridiculous Ramadan of his. In one word, Queequeg, said I, rather digressively, hell is an idea first born of an undigested apple dumpling, and since then perpetrated through the hereditary dyspepsias nurtured by Ramadans. But I think what both Ishmael and Nietzsche understand is that we have this tendency to tell stories about the sensations in our body, that everything we feel, every emotion, every religious feeling is ultimately just a sensation in the body. And we have this choice of what story we invest in those sensations, what stories we choose to tell ourselves. And I think what makes Ishmael such a unique character and unique narrator in Moby Dick is he's the kind of person who eschews getting lost in stories in general. Stories about religion, stories about good and evil, stories about the past, stories about the future, stories about his life. He's someone who's deeply grounded in the present moment and in the sensations of the body. And I think that's what makes him quite Nietzschean and makes him such a compelling character. An additional level of complexity and nuance in all of this is that, of course, we know Ishmael is sort of lashing out at Queequeg because he was afraid. He was so scared. He had like a panic moment. And so now he's sort of unleashing on him. Queequeg responds to Ishmael knowingly and lovingly and doesn't need to really respond. He just smiles, And there's a deep sense in the book. We know from the very beginning of the book that Ishmael goes on this whaling voyage because he's looking to escape. He's looking for a retreat. He's looking for a kind of silence. And we know throughout the book that the silence, this peace that he's looking for, is the peace that Queequeg has. It's the peace of that Ramadan and that silent meditation. It's the peace and quiet that's what draws Ishmael to Queequeg in the first place. And this motif, of course, will come up again throughout the book. this theme of meditation, this image of meditation, as the whaling voyage becomes kind of a meditative experience. And this piece that's exemplified by Queequeg will come up again towards the end of the book in a very memorable moment when Queequeg is sick and he's dying and he lies down in his coffin. Very reminiscent of this early Ramadan Queequeg, and he lies down in his coffin to die.